This week's podcast is sponsored by MPB, the simplest and safest way to sell photo and video kit. Free up funds from your kit bag and get paid fast. Find out how much MPB will pay you at mpb.com/sell.
Hello and welcome to the AVForums Podcast, streaming to you live tonight, Monday the 9th of May 2022, or if you're listening a little bit later in the week, good evening to you as well. Thank you very much for listening. It is appreciated. Numbers have been great recently, so thank you very much for everybody that has subscribed and everybody that is listening either live or later in the week. It really is appreciated. And don't forget, the Movies Podcast is part of this podcast. If you're listening a bit later in the week, it's all edited together. If you're watching live tonight, then welcome to you. The chat window's open and the Movies Podcast will be along at 8:30 tonight. So if movies is your thing, then Kaz and the guys will be along at 8:30. But we got a busy show for you tonight. We hope to be done and dusted within the hour, but you never know with these kind of things and our planning. But anyway, tonight I am joined by Ed Selly. Hi, Ed.
Hello, sir. You all right?
We also have Ian.
Hello.
Ian. Jules is here this week. Hi, Jules.
Evening all.
And a special guest this week, because we're going to be talking projectors and calibration and so on, is Ricky Jennings. Hi, Ricky.
Oh.
Right, so just to get started, Ricky, you're new to the podcast. Some people might not know. If they're forum regulars, they will know who you are, but people listening in might not know who you are. So maybe just give us a quick brief who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I am the owner of Calibrate Limited. We specialise in home cinema supply of equipment and installation. We also do calibration of audio and video.
Excellent. So Ricky's site is up at the minute if you're watching live. If not, go visit and find out. And somebody at the door and the dog's just gone mad. So there you go. That proves that we are live. So anyway, let's crack on with tonight's show. So Ed, what have you been up to?
Other than the brief was explaining before we went live, I decided to not do any sleeping last night, which means if I'm more confused and rambling than usual, that's why. No, otherwise I have returned to doing more vegetarian cookery because I got into the habit of doing more of it over lockdown, and then I essentially sort of started to slip back into being excessively carnivorous. So I've been doing more vegetarian cookery, and otherwise I think I've now watched all of the Roger Moore Bond films on Amazon because they are a guilty pleasure and they're all universally dreadful. So that's what I've been up to. Okay. Obviously, I've been doing some review stuff as well, but we'll cover one of the things that's coming up. And later, normally I wait until a bit later on in the month to let slip what's coming next. So there's stuff already here and being tested, but we'll talk about that at another time.
Okay, apologies again for the dog barking. Wasn't expecting that. License Taximan said that sounded rough. Well done. Good to get the puns in nice and early. Ian, what have you been up to?
Still playing games, unsurprisingly. Still a lot of Minecraft action going on, which is probably far too much for somebody of my age. But I did end up building a giant roller coaster during the week, so that kind of pleased my inner child quite a lot. So that was quite good fun. And also, against my better judgment as a Norwich City fan, I've been watching a lot of football lately. But it's more because just I love the end of season drama, like the last day of the season, the as it stands tables, the ups and downs and everything going on. And then you got the playoff drama as well. So, and not to mention the Champions League, Europa League and all that. So yeah, even though I'm not necessarily enjoying it from my own personal perspective, it's been quite good fun just as a pure football fan to be able to enjoy all the action.
Playoffs are the most savage matches in English football. I think there's just so much on it. And it's such, getting there in the first place, it's such a crapshoot. And it can be the team that's sidled in at the last minute to, into the final playoffs place that ends up making it through. I think they are fabulous games to watch.
Yeah, I think
there's a bit of local history there as well.
Yeah. I think I like the tension, but without having any kind of dog in the fight. So
skin in the game.
If you don't really care who wins, you can just enjoy the tension without getting too passionately involved and just stressed out by the whole thing.
Well, you've got something in common with Jules there. Jules, I imagine that you support the same team. So
we do. Yeah, I've had a week from hell. Last Saturday, I was at Villa Park, and we got relegated I didn't see any football. Certainly not from our team. Yeah, it's pretty. That's the first time I've been there when we've actually got relegated. Otherwise, you've watched on TV. It's not a great feeling, but it was entirely expected. It was
solidarity.
Tears in the eyes.
Dreadful. Lump in the throat, but only a small one because I completely expected it. And then we went to the Lake District on holiday on the Sunday for the week, and 2 days in, my wife broke her ankle on a coastal walk from St. Bees to Whitehaven on a slippery slope. Her ankle went from underneath her, and big crack. You could hear it audibly.
Ouch.
And they had to scramble the lifeboat crew to get us away, to get us off.
But no, you went.
Yeah, we didn't know whether we were going to get. Well, we didn't know whether we were going to get a boat or a helicopter because it was so out of the way, and in the end we got neither. They scrambled the lifeboat crew, but they came across a load of fields in a Land Rover. And there are lots of guys running after them like little minions with yellow wellies on. There was a lifeboat crew.
There wasn't the BBC team doing that lifeboat documentary. You're not an inadvertent star for the next season.
Unfortunately not, but they do want to feature her on the Whitehaven edition of the RNLI newsletter because a land rescue for the lifeboat crew is quite unusual.
Obviously, I hope first of all that she's
I hope she's
stayed in a reasonable recovery. Has she been put in a cast or is it pinned?
Yeah, she's in a cast, but it was a complete mess up. Transferred to Carlisle. We'll operate in the morning. Then they said, "Oh no, we can't operate now because she's too swollen." Now wait for the swelling to go down. Saturday they said we're going to operate today. Then they opened the cast up and found that she got these thing called fracture blisters.
Ooh.
So they couldn't operate. No, so she sent it home to Leicester, and we're waiting to go into the Leicester Royal Infirmary to get something sorted. And then she caught norovirus in the hospital as well. So she's throwing
one thing into another. Well, I hope she is soon on the road to recovery. Yeah. I hope it gets better soon. It's
not a great week.
If nothing else, Jules, it's a better story than when I broke my ankle, if you call falling off the front step of my house.
That almost
you
paid to your trip
inebriated, were you?
No. I was both sober and I was supposed to go on holiday the next day, and I did not.
Oh God!
So that wasn't my finest hour. But no, I wish her a speedy recovery. And
thanks.
Sort itself out.
Well, like I say, we've got a busy show tonight, so let's move on. Let's start the show. We'll be back in a second with hardware.
If you'd like to support the AVForums podcast on a regular basis, then why not become a patron? Head over to patreon.com/AVForums to sign up. You can also make a one-off donation through the Super Chat or via streamlabs.com/AVForums. All donations help us to improve the website and the podcasts. Thank you to all our supporters.
Right, so we've got two new patrons. Thank you very much for your support, Tim Tunes and Heathen6666. Thank you very much for your support. It really is appreciated. All the help that you give us goes towards producing, hopefully, a better podcast and a better show. So let's move on to do some hardware. And before we do that, it's your chance to win some prizes in our competitions. And Ed's going to tell you what you can win.
Yeah, just the one prize, but it is a doozy. So you can win a Valencia single Tuscany black cinema seat worth £1,399.99. To win it, head over to avforums.com/competitions to enter. All competitions are open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK. We also have a previous competition winner, the Atlas EOS Modular 4.0 power conditioning block worth 900 boys, courtesy of Yorkshire AV, was won by Netley. So I hope you enjoy that. Well done to you. And obviously, if you are a competition junkie, once again, don't forget that the film boys. I mean, I need to stress that many of the prizes are something you may only watch once, but there's bloody loads of them. So don't forget to stay tuned for the movies competitions, because they usually got droves of things that you can win.
Okay, thanks, Ed, and well done, Netley, on winning that. It's a cracking prize. Right, so let's move on to some news. Ian, what's happening in the world of AV this week then?
Well, first up, quite apt really, considering the conversation you guys will be having later, is a couple of new projectors from Sony. They've announced two new native 4K SXRD laser home projectors. I'll give you the product names if it matters. Can get a little confusing, but it's the VPL XW7000DS and the VPL XW5000ES. They come in priced at £14,999 and £5,999 respectively. More expensive model comes with brightness of 3,200 lumens, which is quite impressive, and some other additional features such as a new 70mm advanced crisp focus lens, and other bits and pieces, which again, like I say, you guys might be better judged to kind of speak about in a bit more detail. One headline feature, which may or may not be important depending on your take on things, is they do come with the world's smallest panel with just a 0.61 of an inch in size, which comes with the added benefit of making it smaller and lighter. Whether you consider that important for a projector might be up to you. But yeah, those two new models with us now.
Okay, I was hoping Ricky was going to give us some bits and pieces, but he's disappeared. He's also having a problem with his connection there. But Jules, you're familiar, obviously, with the Sony models.
Very good projectors.
Are you up to speed with the new models? Do you know what's coming?
I've looked at the specs. I've not seen them yet. Found the specs quite interesting. The pedant in me wants to say, are they 4K? They're UHD, aren't they? They're actually natively 3840 by 2160, not 4096 by 2160, like Sony's previous 4K panels and like the JVC panels. So they're UHD resolution, aren't they? They've cut down the panel size as well. And does that equate to an image that's not quite as sharp? When the DLP projectors went down from their 0.95 chips to 0.65, they weren't quite as sharp as the older ones. Things have been squeezed. They're advertising obviously that they're a more moderate size. I mean, still probably quite chunky historically. And they're sort of also promoting them as sort of more media room based, or certainly the lower model, which is also quite interesting.
Okay, well, Ricky's back. Ricky, what's your thoughts on the new Sony projectors then?
Sorry, for some reason my Zoom app suddenly decided to die just as everything started. I mean, they've obviously tried to separate. There's quite a big gap in the middle. They've obviously streamlined and brought out a few sort of reductions in the kind of cheaper version. I mean, they've made big changes to the main things of a projector, the optical block and also the panels. They reduced the size of the panels, taken them to UHD, reduced the quality of the lens. So we'll have to see how that.
And obviously lens shift has gone as well. So
it's all manual.
Screen.
So I mean, that's going to wipe out. I know for us, that's going to wipe out at least 50% of our clients because they've got scope screens now, 235, 240 screens, which won't work.
No, it's an interesting decision, that it really is. And again, we're pointing to costs here. That's the only reason I can think that they've removed that kind of functionality is costs in production and so on. So we will be getting these in for review. I've already spoken to Sony. As soon as the samples are available, they're going to send them through. So we will get to reviewing those at some point. But that's two new projectors from Sony. The news story is up there. Ian put the news story together earlier in the week. So if you're interested in finding out a little bit more, and don't forget, you can also click on the products and get the specifications and so on that we know at the minute. All the specs are there. So you can use the product functionality as well. The quickest way to do that is to hit the specs tab at the top of the story in the editorial, and it will drop down all the specs for you so you can have a look at that. What else is going on, Ian?
The other one, it's not exactly a huge scoop in terms of a headline, but it's just new research came out pointing to how the growth in 8K TVs isn't escalating quite as people would have predicted a couple of years back. This comes from a global market research company called Omdia, which is currently predicting that by 2026, there'll be around 2.7 million households around the world that have an 8K TV. If you compare that to...
That's infinitesimal, isn't it? When it boils down to
I mean, and if you compare that to a story we ran a couple of years ago where they were predicting there'll be over 50 million households by 2025. That's quite a steep drop off in terms of kind of the numbers they're expecting and the kind of the pickup of 8K TVs. Their research suggesting it was just 0.15% of TVs were shipped. I'm looking at stats, so it's around 350,000 units in 2021 with just 8K TVs. There's probably plenty of very obvious reasons why this is happening, why it's not progressing quite as quickly as some people might have hoped, or some people might kind of might not necessarily quite get the appeal of 8K at the moment in terms of the more mainstream users. But it's just interesting to see sort of that slowdown, the reasons that people are coming into it, and what people might want from 8K in the future to actually make it more viable.
The problem with 8K is it doesn't have any shiny bells and whistles to sell it. It's just purely resolution, which brings with it huge costs in terms of production. We're still struggling to get 4K content, and especially 4K film content where there's lots of special effects that are actually finished at 2K. Although a lot of disc releases are still 2K DIs that are then converted to 4K res for disc release and so on. So that's where we are, and that's where we've been for a number of years. The other thing is, in terms of physical media, there is no format for 8K in terms of physical media, so it'd have to be streaming. And again, serving that kind of content, whether it be broadcast or online and so on, it's still a hell of a lot of data, even with the latest compression technology and so on. So I think there's a lot of barriers. And the big one, Jules works with a lot of professional studios and so on. He goes in and calibrates all of their mastering equipment. The big problem is, Jules?
Well, nobody's grading at 8K. You know, there's no monitors there. So most of the places I come across are still doing SDR content at 1080. You know, and occasionally you'll get studios saying we've got, you know, a BB, one of the Sony HDR monitors, but that's far outweighed by the SDR content that's being produced still. So we're way behind, into producing content for it. And the other thing, Phil, as well, is that most people in British lounges, when I go and calibrate in people's homes, they're not even sitting close enough to their TV to see the 4K resolution. So you're going to have a massive TV in your living room to get any benefit visually from 8K. And our living rooms just aren't up to it.
Yeah. So this office that I'm working in at the moment, the largest screens I can get in is the 65-inch, and I've had a couple of 65-inch 8Ks. I'm waiting on the 900 turning up this year for review as well. The problem is you put it next to a 4K TV, you sit the same distance, and like you say, there is no real difference there in terms of resolution and so on. At least with 4K, when 4K was introduced, it came with HDR. You know, HDR and 4K came hand in hand. I mean, you can have 1080 HDR; it's not a problem. And you got HLG broadcast wise and so on. But with 4K, especially when it was a physical media release, it had HDR to go with it, which was a nice big uptick, as well as wide color gamut to go with it. So, you know, 4K had the uptake, it had the uptake, and people were producing content in 4K as well, and it's easier to produce in 4K these days. So yeah, 8K's got a real struggle on its hands, especially in the UK. For a US audience who can and do have much larger screens, you know, it's probably going to come a lot sooner for them, but it's certainly UK homes, anything over 65-inch, 77 is really pushing it, I think, in most normal homes, normal room size, it's starting to get very big then. So it'll be interesting. I keep saying that, but it will be interesting to see.
I think if they're going to do a physical format for it, it should be Laserdisc sized. If there's one thing we've sought, that it's not about practicality anymore. If you're going to do it, go balls out. It comes in a giant player the size of a fridge, and there's a real ceremony to it.
And we can get back to gatefold sleeves with all the artwork and
just
the notes.
Think of it. It's just going to tick all the right boxes.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion. If you're going to do it, there's a phrase from Tropic Thunder which I probably can't use on a live podcast, but you need to do that basically. So you know. Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff. So that's AV news. And if you got your thoughts on 8K, why you think it's not a success at the minute and not really taking off, or if you got your point of view on where you'd like to see things go in terms of 8K and so on, then of course you can use the comments in the comments section next to the podcast as it's live, or go to AVForums and head down, find the forum, and leave your comments next to the podcast in there. Right. So moving on, quick bit of hi-fi news, Ed.
Yes, we've tested a product from this company before, the very excellent HiFi Rose RS201. Well, they've made an amplifier, and it looks like no other amplifier I've seen ever, really. Essentially, there's one of every single control you can imagine. It's got some VU meters. It appears to have a pentagram on the volume knob, cogs, But the actual engineering is quite interesting. So you'll be delighted, and I'm hoping relieved to hear that obviously I've asked for a review sample. If it's at all possible to get one in, we will. But yes, do you know what? I'm all for this. I have this, this theory. It's the same with the mission speakers, which will be appearing on the website in the not too distant future. If you're going to make something which people will love, conditional to that is that it has to be sufficiently sort of striking that some people will hate it. And I like this. We've been too timid for too long. All the signs point to the fact that it's not simply a novelty item on the inside. It's got some really quite solid engineering. And I just think it looks bonkers. And that's how it should be. So, yeah. And it's $5,000. So, I mean, obviously not giving it away, but in the context of some of the ridiculous things that exist, I don't know. As I say, I'm quite looking forward to getting hands on.
As soon as I see the image, it reminds me of a old-fashioned reel-to-reel professional tape deck.
There's elements of
news gathering
definitely
thing,
to it.
Yeah.
But even they didn't go with cogs, no. Other than actually.
It looks like they've sent out a questionnaire to their customers and said, "What would you like on the next product?" And they've just ticked all the boxes, haven't they? Really.
No, as I say, I just think this is fabulous. I'm really pleased that it exists, and I want more of this. I would like more choice and more stuff which actually elicits an opinion from people. So yes, hopefully we'll get to have a look at it, and we'll see if it's any good as well.
Yep, excellent. It looks like one of those products you want to know more about it because it looks absolutely batshit crazy, doesn't it? So, excellent. Right. Let's get on to some of the main subjects tonight. We'll come to Ed's HiFi product in a moment. First of all, we're going to talk about the Samsung S95B. It's one of the most anticipated TVs this year. A lot of hype surrounding it. It was available in the US to our US listeners a number of months ago now. They've had time to get into it and calibrate it and have a look and so on, but we only got them in the marketplace last week. We bought ours. We went out and purchased it. It's not cheap for the UK. It's £3,400 for the 65-inch. That is quite a bit of money, especially when you then see the build quality. It's not a premium product from that point of view. You're basically paying for the QD OLED technology. That's what you're paying for. You're definitely not paying for build quality. The panel, it moves. It's very flexible. It could quite easily be damaged if it's being moved around quite a bit. For most people, that won't be an issue. You're going to put it on your TV stand and it's going to be there for the next 5 to 10 years. If you're a TV reviewer and you're somebody who puts stuff up all the time for comparisons and you're continually moving things around, it flexes, it moves about. And if it's packed wrong in the box as well, and I have heard a couple of stories from the US where they've turned up and the panel has been warped, that is a possibility. The build quality is not great. The stand is a bit plastic. Well, it's all plastic at the back. It's nicely designed. There's lots of cable management and so on. And it's got a nice sort of aluminium look to the front. But again, in terms of the build quality, the back panel is, again, plastic. So corners have been cut. There's no doubt about that. This is not a luxury product. It hasn't been built like a luxury product. But again, it's because it's new OLED technology. It's QD OLED. So let's cut to the chase. What were the numbers? Well, my initial testing, and I'm going to be testing for a number of weeks, you can see that the TV is behind me with an LG C2 next to each other at the minute, both 65-inch TVs. Both of them at the moment are in the filmmaker mode out of the box. The eagle-eyed will be able to tell which one the Samsung is and which one the LG is. Just by the white, the way it displays white. One is very red, the other is very cyan. That's the spectral output of how the different panels work. So that aside, the big numbers, everybody wants to know peak brightness, 1000 nits. That's on a 10% window in filmmaker mode. It was exactly the same on an 8% window, on a 9% window, and so on. We did check the different window sizes. I'm going to come back to that in a second. And 200 nits basically on 100% white, which is a good 50 nits above most of the competition out there. Although the G2 does push probably about 170 nits, so you wouldn't have noticed the difference between the G2 and the Samsung there. But again, impressive numbers. As far as I'm aware, there is no heatsink on this panel. So it really is pushing that, and they're pushing the panel. Now, a bit of controversy was generated by a video that Vincent did at HCTV Test, where he identified that the EOTF tracking was varying depending on the window size being used for the measurements, and he suggested that it was perhaps something that was built into the TV to manipulate that when the TV was being tested. So basically a Dieselgate for TVs. It would know when it was being sent a 10% window, and it would switch into the I'm going to measure accurate mode. There's been quite a bit of skepticism about this and other testing and so on. I've done my testing, used a Meridio 7 generator to generate the windows, Calman software, and varied the window size. So measured first of all at 10%, and it measured the EOTF tracking where it should be in terms of the standard, and then bumped it down to an 8% window. Did the same tests again, and it was brightening it. So it was doing the old Samsung thing where it brightens the EOTF from about 300 nits to about 800 nits. There is a very distinct bump in the brightness. In terms of SDR, filmmaker mode in SDR was fairly inaccurate for filmmaker mode, which I was surprised about, because the UHDA are quite strict about manufacturers. If they're going to use filmmaker mode, then it has to track as close as possible to the standards out of the box. Obviously, there is variance. There's going to be panel variance and so on. It was too red, and it's quite obvious that was the case. So it is a little bit inaccurate. If you're looking for accuracy out of the box, filmmaker mode in SDR was a little bit accurate. The color gamut appears to be fine, even using different window sizes. The actual gamut size remained the same. The saturation tracking remained the same between the different window sizes. So there was nothing going on there. It was more the white balance and EOTF side of things were using a non-standard window was pushing the brightness of the UTF. So that is happening. Is that a defeat device or something built into the TV? I have no evidence to suggest that is the case. I can only report back the facts that I have found, and that is that my results tally with what Vincent's found on his TV in terms of measurements and so on. So in terms of EOTF tracking, it's inaccurate in non-standard sizes. So you can make your own conclusions based on the evidence that's presented there. I mean, it's there's nothing conclusive there, but circumstantially, something is going on and something is happening there. So if it's what you're looking for in terms of accuracy, it's not great from that term of things. I'm still working on the calibration side of things. I want to try as much as I can and different scenarios and so on, just to see how the TV behaves. So I'm not going to report on that just yet. You'll have to wait for the full review for that. And I'm just quickly going through my notes just to see what else I can tell you about it tonight. So SDR is overly bright as well. The gamma is too bright. Even if you select BT1886, it's down towards 2.1, which is not what you want to see with SDR content. So yeah, it's definitely pushing brightness, and the problem with that is, yes, it looks great. The color volume is superb. DCI-P3 and UV was 99%, and XY. XY was 99%. UV was 100% of DCI-P3 in terms of coverage. So it's got wide color gamut and all the rest of it. It pushes it. Everything is pushed for brightness. And the problem with that is that you then start to scrub detail. You start to lose detail. You start to get overblown side of things. One thing I really do notice with this is red is pushed quite a bit. So not only is and you can see it really quite clearly there, between the LG and the Samsung, and they're both in filmmaker mode. This should look very similar, but obviously it's different panel technology. You have that different spectral read from there. So it's not great if you're looking for accuracy. Now, if accuracy is not your thing, if you want a nice, bright, glaring, garish colors and all the rest of it, and you want something that's going to pop off the screen, the Samsung will do that for you. All Samsung products do that. If that's what you want, it's going to do that. If you're looking for accuracy, I wait on my review I really want to spend a bit more time. And as you can see, we have got the facilities to test the TVs side by side and measure them side by side and so on. And we will film them side by side as well. Looking at it from a camera that's not great built into my laptop and so on. Don't judge any picture quality on the camera and what you're seeing over this stream. But it's doing a couple of naughty things. Other things that I just wanted to quickly mention was the UI is buggy and it is slow at times. And then at other times it'll fly along like it's the fastest thing ever. So again, it's a bit hit and miss, a bit inconsistent there. Build quality, I've already covered that. So in terms of QD OLED, do I like it? Yes, I think it's great. It's really, really good technology. I can't wait to see what else we get this year, especially from Sony. I've already seen the Sony. It is really impressive. We will get hold of one for long-term testing. We're going to put all these screens together. How does it stack against the G2, the LG G2? Very close. For most things, both of them are very, very close. Color volume wise, you're going to get that a little bit more out of the Samsung. But again, at the minute, if accuracy is your thing, I would hang on. Don't go out and buy straight away. Let's see what the rest of the year has to offer. But in terms of my initial thoughts, it's impressive. It's just it does a few things that I'm not particularly happy about, and I want to do a bit more digging into things and find out just how accurately it will calibrate. Because if it's doing a defeat thing when it gets standard window sizes, how accurate is your calibration going to be? Because if you're getting inaccurate readings and you're working on inaccurate readings, it's going to be inaccurate. So again, I want to have a good look at that. But any thoughts from you, Jules?
Yeah, I mean, that's disappointing to hear. Samsung do have a history of doing this before, haven't they? But filmmaker mode is there for a reason. It's supposed to be the most accurate mode. And if they have been fiddling, that would be disappointing because 10% windows is what we all use as calibrators and reviewers to test these things. And if it doesn't give you that a true representation of what it's going to be doing overall, then how can you trust your calibration? I mean, how did you find the color management system, Phil? Because over the past few years, I've found it decreasing in its efficacy, to be honest. And
to be honest with you, I've done very little in terms of looking at the color side of things. I've been more concerned about what it's actually doing with the UTF tracking. That's what I spent most of my time on.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to really sort of sit down and do a full start to finish calibration on it just yet. It's again, I want to find out what it's doing before I then spend hours trying to calibrate it and then find that at the end of the day it hasn't done what I wanted it to do. But yeah, the CMS has never been great on the Samsungs. It needs to develop. I mean, LG do it right, Panasonic do it right, Sony have a good system as well. Samsung need to catch up in that regard, I think.
But they did have a very good system. I remember talking to Steve years ago about this, and we'd sort of rub our hands. Oh, it's a Samsung today. It means the color management system is going to work very well. It's going to be a very nice system. But it started to go downhill, became less accurate, became less effective. And a couple of years ago, they had one which allowed you 25, 50, 75% CMS, and it just didn't work properly. And so it's been going downhill for a number of years.
Yeah. Well, like I say, we are going to be working on this. I'm just going through to see if there's any questions that are relevant right now to while we're talking about the Samsung. So AI Rod says, bright living room, only interested in movies, don't care about accuracy. Is the TV I should get? Probably. If you're not bothered about accuracy, why spend 3,400 quid on a TV?
Or vivid mode on something else.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing that I find quite strange is that you would go to that kind of expense with this kind of technology and not want accuracy. I can't get my head around that. I mean, obviously it's up to you. It's your TV, it's your money. You go and buy it and you set it up the way you like, and you're not going to get any pushback from me. It's just I struggle with the concept, and maybe it's because for a long time I've always pushed for accuracy and how the creator intended it. And that doesn't mean that it needs to be dim and dark and all the rest of it. It's that it should follow the standards, and standards are there for a reason. Now, most TV manufacturers have 5 or 6 picture presets, some even more than that. All we're asking for are 2. One for daytime viewing, one for nighttime viewing that are accurate, or one filmmaker mode, which has everything switched off. That's all we're asking for. Manufacturers can do whatever they like with other picture modes, and people will love it. And I've got to say, I have put this in vivid mode with the picture processing all switched on and all the rest of it, and I can see why people would want to sit and watch that. It's appealing to the eye. It's not accurate. You're missing a shed load of detail. It doesn't look anything like it was supposed to look, especially if it's film at 24 frames. It's supposed to look a certain way. The director spends a lot of time making sure that objects in the screen and so on is a certain colour, so it draws your eyes to that. And there will be objects that they don't want you to draw your eyes to, which if it's all wrong and it's all set up wrong and it's just pure vivid colours, you completely lose that. But again, it's entirely up to you how you set your TV up. Nobody's forcing you. Nobody's putting a gun to your head or anything like that and saying you must do this. And you don't need to be a calibrator either. I saw another thing that said best TV for HDR if you aren't a calibrator. I disagree with that. I don't think it's the best TV for HDR at all. It's very promising technology. I just don't think any of the picture presets that Samsung have put on this TV at the minute actually do show you HDR in the correct way, without blowing highlights, without crushed blacks and so on. So I would disagree with that as well. It's the thing though. If you want a TV that's going to blow you away in terms of vivid colours and all the rest of it, don't spend £3,000 on it. Go spend £800 on an LCD or whatever, and you're going to get that. I really don't understand the argument at all. So anyway, we need to move on because I don't want to spend hours on this either. The review is coming. We bought this TV, it's purchased, so it's staying around. It's not going anywhere for a good few months at the minute. We're going to get all the TVs in together, side by side. We're going to test them all. And at the end of the day, we're not going to tell you buy X, Y, Z. We'll give you the information, and it'll be unbiased information. It's objective information, which is another reason why we do things to standards, because you can properly judge quality, picture quality and so on between products that way. So anyway, we're going to come back to calibration in a second. That wraps up our initial findings. If there's any questions and we've got time, I will answer them at the end of the podcast. So stay around if you have got questions, and we'll see what turns up there. But we need to crack on. We need to talk a little bit about HiFi and a product that's coming from NAD, which should be good, because I've seen a couple of recent products and they have been very, very good, Ed.
Sorry, I'll unmute and do that properly. Yes. This is the C399. And it will be going up live, but as you can see, it has done very well. This is NAD's flagship non-Master Series amp. So this is the most expensive grey NAD amplifier that you can buy, and it's borrowed lots of technology from the Master Series. It has the N-core amplification out of those, and it has the new version of the modular system, which NAD's been offering for some years, which means you can attach Blue Sound modules and HDMI switches and so on and so forth, and make the amp more future-proof than would otherwise be the case. The big change is that this module system is two-way. So you can buy the standard amplifier for, I think it's £1,800, maybe £1,900. But if you add the module, not only do you get the Blue OS streaming system, which is extremely good, but it comes with Dirac, which can then be applied to all of the other inputs on the amplifier. Now, this is the same version of Dirac that NAD has put on their AV products, which Phil's tested. It doesn't do the full frequency response like the Arcam ones do, unless you pay to unlock the full license. My position on this is that it largely corrects where the issues are going to be. So I don't consider it to be too much of an issue. This amplifier does have one problem, and that is that if you don't really need Dirac, there aren't that many reasons why I would choose this over the C700, which I tested earlier this year. That's just absolutely outstanding. And the 399 is extremely good, it's extremely capable, and it does loads of things. But for most people, you could save yourself a couple of £100 and go for the C700. If you don't need Dirac, that is an outstanding amplifier. And I would argue a better looking amplifier as well. I mean, none of these products are exactly, they haven't got cogs on them for starters, but they're all, they're perfectly inoffensive. But I'd say the little amplifier is better looking than the big one. So other than the fact that its stiffest competition comes from the same company, it is a tremendous piece of kit. It is proper modern hi-fi. It's essentially an all-in-one system when the module's added. You get HDMI ARC, so it will talk to your television. There's a phono stage, so it can talk to your turntable. It's extremely capable. We haven't tested an NAD product in ages that wasn't extremely capable. I wish it looked a little bit better. And as I say, it faces some competition from inside the actual NAD product lineup. But the full review will be up later on, and it's really very good indeed.
Excellent. Okay, it feels a bit rushed, and we're sorry about that. But
you've got at some point you've got. You guys have got to talk about projectors and stuff. At this point, obviously the nature of how the reviews are written, all information is in the review. If you have any questions, stick them in the comments thread. And I'm just going to stare gently into space whilst you talk about whatever the hell it is you do.
You do that. Okay. I don't know what Ian's doing, but he's having a good giggle there as well. So. Maker says there's zero detail lost. I 100% disagree. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. The detail is lost in WOLEDs with any bright colors and scenes. Not true, but yeah. You're all entitled to your opinions and so on. And there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of people talking about this stuff. There's lots of videos, different videos, all people coming to different conclusions. Like I say, we're going to stick to what we do best, which is basically we will measure and objective data on these things. Maker also says that all TVs are inaccurate out of the box. Again, that's not true. It's why the Filmmaker initiative was out there. It is possible to get TVs that look fairly accurate out of the box. Some of them with Delta E's under 3. So again, I disagree with that. There's still plenty of room for calibration, and we're going to come on to calibration now and the reasons for that. And calibration is not just about setting the settings correctly on the TV. There's lots more to calibration than just that. So let's move on to that. But we're going to talk projectors because it's an area we haven't covered for quite some time. So it's that time of year. We're going to be getting new projectors announced over the next few months and so on. We've already discussed the Sonys. So let's move on to the subject. It's one of the reasons why Ricky's on the podcast tonight. Ricky is a specialist with projectors as well, a calibrator. So Ricky, what's the number one mistake that you think people make when it comes to installing the first projector in the first cinema room?
Well, I think when you talk about projection system, people often go for a white screen, which is fine if you have the perfect room. So if you have a perfectly black back cave, material on the wall and everything like that, a white screen is your reference. Problem is a lot of rooms have reflections in there, which is going to impact on the image. So it's when people talk about having a back cave, people often think just blocking the light from doors, windows is enough, but it's not. A lot of the reflective surfaces are also going to impact on the image. So really, when you're talking about projection, you need to consider the screen, the room, and the projector, and get all three married up correctly. Because if you don't get one of them right, you're not going to get an optimum picture.
One of the common mistakes I see made, Ricky, and obviously I know the reasons for this, but I'm just going to ask you the questions because you guys are the experts that we've got on tonight, and I want to give you airtime, as much airtime as possible. But one of the things I see is somebody will go out and spend quite a bit of money on a JVC and then shove it in a white room. How do you educate before people go, and how do you do it in such a way that you're not forcing people to do maybe something they don't want to do, but how do you get the message across?
You have to explain why that's an issue, because a JVC, as long as you've got no natural light in a room, a JVC black floor is potentially going to be the same because you've got nothing actually impacting on it. As soon as you put light onto that image, it's going to start reflecting in the room. So it comes out of black a lot quicker. So you will start to go grey rather than retaining those blacks because it's reflecting off the walls, the ceiling, the floor, anything else in the room as well. So it's about trying to explain that to people so they understand why JVC might not be optimum in there. Having said that, using a right screen, using an ambient light rejecting screen can help with that. I mean, people talk about ambient light rejecting screens having a viewing cone, which means it reflects more light back to the middle and not to the sides, which people talk about that as a negative. But in fact, that can be a positive because it's keeping light off the walls, off the ceiling, off the floor to help to stop those reflections. It's about marrying everything up. A JVC will still perform well in a lighter room, but just not to its optimum.
And Jules, your experience dealing with projectors, what is it the common mistake that you see from time to time, that the one thing you always have to correct for the consumer?
Well, just like Ricky's been saying, you'll find projectors in white rooms, and people don't quite realise the impact that's going to have on the picture. So you lose a lot of contrast. Everything's reflecting off the walls. So that's the biggest mistake. I think it's not just, people think about light coming in from outside, and that's very important to block that out, but also it's the reflectivity of your room, and obviously black is best. But if you can't go black, I mean, people putting projectors in living rooms, more sort of media room sort of things, where you can't go completely black. In that case, you're going to have to look at your screen in order to help you out. But the ideal is black room, white screen.
And it is funny, any light in the room will kill your contrast quite quickly.
Oh,
and, the best example I saw of that was it was a demo, and it was in a professional demonstration facility. It was all black, the walls were all black and so on. But the 19-inch rack was sitting behind the viewing area. And as soon as the amplifier switched on and you had the light from the amplifier, it was a black hole until this light came on, and it killed the contrast in the room.
Yep.
And it was just one small light coming on an amplifier.
Yeah.
And it's trying to get that message across, I think, is very, very difficult.
Well, it's even professionals don't get it right. I remember you mentioned the JVC in the white room, and I did a calibration in Kensington a few years back, and the client, the installer was saying, and of course we put the JVC in the room because it's got the best black levels, but the room was completely white, and I'm thinking, that this doesn't make sense. But also commercially, over my horrible last week, went to view Cinema in Carlisle to watch a film, and the amount of ambient light in that room was awful. Exit light was shining onto the screen. The bottom quarter of the screen was green. If you can get that right, you're on the way to a good picture.
Now, we've mentioned JVC, but there are other projection technologies out there. So if you have a room that's not optimal, are there other technologies that you might specify, Ricky, in terms of maybe combating ambient light that's in the room, other than the light rejection screen? Would you recommend a 3-chip DLP, for example?
DLP, we don't do an awful lot of, to be honest. You have got the optimers and things like that, but realistically, we often find the Epsoms do very well. We find the three main brands we find sell very well, very good quality, are the Epsoms, the Sonys, and the JVCs. And we often find, to a price point, it's the Epsoms, and the JVC is at the higher price point. I mean, Epsom have got some good projectors. They've got bulb projectors. They've now got some laser projectors that push out a lot of light and can work in rooms that are less than ideal. And they tend to be the ones that people go for, plainly because flexibility is quite often these are in living rooms. You need a good amount of lens shift and things like that, which LPs struggle with. They don't necessarily have as much of that flexibility.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other thing they struggle with, isn't it, is P3. for HDR.
Yeah, obviously, well, for years they struggled with Rec 709. So asking them then to go to P3, I think I've seen 2 that have done it, and that was because they had filters in the light path. And even then, you're cutting your brightness by almost 20%, 30% because you've got this filter in the light path. Right, so we've covered the room. Try and get the room as correct as you can in terms of reflection points and wall colours and so on. And I've mentioned it in a few previous podcasts. There are paints out there now that you can specify that look nice. I mean, greys are in fashion at the minute in terms of interior design. Grey is a great colour to use to try and combat reflections and keep the screen as neutral as possible and so on. So let's move on to the actual calibration. Ricky, how does it vary or differ from calibrating a TV?
Well, you've got to take into account the screen in the room to start off with. I mean, we usually use a two-stage approach. So we would measure off the screen to create a reference profile, but then actually measure off the projector for the actual measurements. Because especially when you're getting to the black levels, you've got really low light output. So your meter needs to be nice and sensitive. If you're trying to measure that black light output and the low sort of greys, it's going to struggle on a screen, a lot of meters. So yeah, you use the profiles with 2 meters. That way it takes into account the screen as well. You would normally do that.
Okay. Jules, in your experience, what are the tips that you would give people in terms of getting the calibration correct for their projector and room?
Yeah, I mean, meter position in relation to the screen is important. It's too close to, you want to be measuring off your own shadow. It's Ricky mentions the right thing. You've got to take into account the screen. The screen, some of those have color temperature shift in them as well. Some of them are quite tinted bluish in order to make them appear brighter. Taking measurements off the screen to take that into account, because you're seeing reflected light as opposed to a TV, which is self-emitting. It's direct light.
Yeah. Okay. So if you've got a client out there who's obviously looking at a projector, they're looking at getting the projector as accurate as possible, and they are looking at the entire system, what is it they need to be thinking about, Ricky, really, at the end of the day? Is it the budget, or is it more a case of what is it you're trying to achieve and then trying to fit the budget around that?
It's both, really. I mean, a lot of people have a budget in mind, and the thing you don't want to do is just spend too much on one part of the sorry, is my internet that?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
it is a little bit in and out at the minute. You want to try that again?
It's suddenly decided tonight to play up for some reason.
Yeah. Do you want to go again?
But yeah, no, I mean, you've got, if people have got a set budget, you've got to look at it properly. Don't spend it all in one area. So don't spend it all on the projector and get a £50 screen or something like that. You need to spread that budget wisely across the whole system. And if anything, you spend more on the screen first, because it's passive. So it will go through lots of different upgrades. Whereas a projector moves with technology. A screen, if you get a right screen, can last you years and years.
Yeah, it's a bit like buying HiFi, Ed. If you get the speakers right, normally the speakers are the constant.
For years, we decided to switch that around and concentrate on front end first, because that was sort of turntable related. But yes, fundamentally, the similarity is take the space that you have, don't overdrive it, and don't essentially work with what you have. And the chaps are completely. That's a very recognizable thing. Spread the budget should be evenly distributed, and just make sure that things don't you don't fall down a sort of target fixated rabbit hole of going for one particular aspect of it being significantly at odds with the rest of it.
Yeah. So. Okay. Final question on this one, because I'm aware of time. HDR. How big of a pain is HDR when it comes to projection, Ricky?
Yeah, well, you've got limited light output, so it's not going to be the same as a TV. So different manufacturers deal with it different ways. I mean, potentially JVC with their dynamic HDR is recognized as being a very good way of doing it, where they manipulate the image depending on what's on the scene. Sony also tries to do that, but maybe not to the same sort of level, whereas Epson is a bit more static at the moment, but they are trying to improve. So yeah, it's a struggle. You can create custom curves for some of them. You can target different EOTFs. You can clip different things at the top, but it's just about making the best of the light output you've got.
And what about adding in a separate processor, video processor? Is that still a route that people can take?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get the best out of it, adding something like a Lumagen or a Mad VR, something in there, it just has a lot of processing power. So it can analyze the image and it will work to the light level you've got with that projector. So as good as the JVC is with theirs, the processing power is just far bigger on something like a Lumagen and a Mad VR to be able to process it. And it just allows you to get an image that isn't crushed in kind of light output, but also resolve more detail, rather than it all being either too bright or too crushed.
Yeah. Okay. And Jules, anything to add to the end of that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other benefits of video processor will handle your auto aspect ratio switching, which if you're watching a Nolan film, is great. I mean, I've got an NZ8 JVC with a Mad VR, and it, the 16:9 content is centered in the screen, and it detects it and puts everything in the right place at the right time. So, no fiddling around with lens memories. Okay, excellent. Well, this is a subject that obviously we can keep coming back to as the year progresses, as the podcast progress. And now that Ricky's been on once, I'm sure Ricky will be up for it coming on again and discussing the pros and cons of calibration and so on. But we have to wrap things up tonight, and we normally do that by heading over to Ed, who's going to give us the album playlist and vinyl of the week. So Ed, over to you.
Yeah. Three different titles. Two different. There's a separate album and vinyl for this week. So album of the week is a Norwegian artist called Sigrid. The album is called How to Let Go. Sigrid clearly understands how to do an album cover that appeals to a very specific subset of men. No need for nudity, just put a proper old BMW on the front. But it's a great listen. She's got an extremely distinctive voice, that standard Scandinavian flair for arrangement. And I'm just really, really enjoying this. I just think it doesn't overstay its welcome. Some decent songs on there. You find yourself sort of coming back to it, humming tunes. It delivers all the sort of things that these pieces of music should. So I've been thoroughly enjoying that. Vinyl of the week is here. I can actually show you a physical copy of it. There is Block Party's Alpha Games. Now this one will divide opinion. I two of my friends absolutely hate it. So make of that what you will. Essentially what they've done is they have revisited the nature of their first two albums, the ones they're best known for, but they've done it in a really angry way. So it's a different sort of listen. There's a lot of pent up irritation at the world in general with Alpha Games, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and all Block Party vinyl is generally very good, and this is no exception. I mean, they've changed labels since the early days, but it's still a decent sounding pressing. It's available in red and black, and there's an extremely rare stroboscopic version as well if you fancy giving hundreds of pounds to a random man on eBay. So there's lots of different options for you there. I've really enjoyed it. It was one of those ones where the first time you listen, you think, I wasn't so sure about that. But then when you sort of dig down into it, I've been really, really enjoying it. And the playlist of the podcast is on Qobuz. Now, I need to make it clear, I don't think this is a particularly good playlist, but I wanted to talk about this playlist purely because the title of the playlist is Listening with the Psychedelic Porn Crumpets. And I don't particularly know if there will ever be another opportunity for me to say those words in that order ever again. The Psychedelic Porn Crumpets are an Australian psychedelic band, and their stuff actually can be quite catchy. I mean, you know, if they were called something normal, it's arguable they may not have enjoyed the success that they have. The playlist is properly weird. It goes all over the place. It does have one or two tracks I've really enjoyed, but that's in a significant number of tracks that I didn't. But they're called the psychedelic porn crumpets, Phil. I couldn't not talk about it. So you know, that's where we are.
And they're catching.
So yeah, those are the recommendations for but hopefully there's something in there which will appeal to you on one level or another.
I was going to mention one that I've been listening to this week, and I've completely forgotten the name of it, but it's a new Bears Den EP.
Oh yes, they do some
really,
stuff.
Really.
I suppose actually we're also doing honourable mention. There's an American artist called AWOL Nation, and this very nearly was album of the podcast because it's just so bizarre. He's done some 80s covers, and if you've ever wanted to hear Taylor Hanson of Hanson Mbop fame sing Madonna's Material Girl, well, it's the album for you.
It was very entertaining. I did have a couple of listens.
I'm probably going to end up buying that anyway because I'm an idiot. So there you are, something for everyone there.
Thanks very much, Ed. Right, so future podcasts up and coming. Join us on the 23rd of May. Again, we'll be live streaming hardware and movies. And then the 13th of June is the one following that. So that's the next two podcasts and live streams that are coming up. Don't forget, if you have questions and so on, then do put them in the podcast forum at AVForums, or put them in the video description if you're watching on YouTube. All the questions that are in the live chat, if I haven't answered them this evening, I will take a note of them and try and come back and circle back on them, because we're not finished with the Samsung S95B. Lots more testing to do. I want to make sure that we cover absolutely everything. And like I say, the LG C2 is next to it. The C2 review and video review is coming up very soon as well. I've been spending a little bit of time just making sure we cover all the points with that. But that's it for tonight. So my thanks to Ian, Jules, Ricky, and Ed. Thanks very much, guys.
No worries.
And coming up next is the Movies Podcast.
Good evening and welcome to the AVForums Movies Podcast. Tonight I have with me Simon Crust.
Live long and prosper. How's it go?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. He will always be my friend. Yes.
Oh, that's easy with that hand. How strange is that?
Even though I can't even do it. Literally, I'm such a... Oh, dear God. No. No.
Okay, tonight we're going to be looking at Second Sight's upcoming limited edition 4K of Drive, which has just been set back a week, and covering 4K releases of Uncharted, Hitchcock Volume 2, Smokin Aces, and all the latest movie, TV, and 4K news, as well as first impressions of Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness and Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So it's going to be a very strange,
all a bit strange,
action-packed. Oh, so much for your no money. Yes. So much for your no money.
Let's start with Doctor Strange.
Go on then.
Doctor Strange, because it's so relevant to my background. Sure. Okay. Yes. Let's rewind and do competitions first. I got way ahead of myself there, guys. Apologies.
Quick, use the Eye of Agamotto. Quick.
Yeah. Go, Mark. Tell me what we can win.
Competitions. Right. So as ever, you can win a huge amount of disc-based goodies. You can win The Boy Behind the Door, Constantine, House of Mystery, and Criterion's April and May titles, all on Blu-ray, all of which were featured in my, if I do say so myself, rather excellent April and May top 10 movie Blu-ray rundowns, as well as Uncharted, Sing 2, and Belfast on Blu-ray, together with Scream on 4K. So head on over to avforums.com/competitions to enter. All competitions are open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK.
Nice. And then previous competition winners, Hank Charlie won a copy of Ghostbusters Afterlife on Blu-ray, and we managed to get him a 4K upgrade.
Oh, it's like real life Apple. Oh,
he was quite chuffed with that, actually. He hadn't seen it and wanted to watch it, which is always brilliant. A good thing for a prize winner. Evad won Soulmates Season 1 on DVD. Tommy 1391 Lake Mungo on Blu-ray. Blu-ray? 4K?
Yes.
4K.
No, Blu-ray.
Nicholas B won Silent Enemy on Blu-ray. Draped in Darkness won Gift Horse on Blu-ray.
Nice.
ISIS 1981 UK won the Good Karma Hospital Complete Series 1-4 DVD box set. Big fat box set. Dimension AEB won a copy of Young Rock Season 1 on Blu-ray, and patron Dave CH won The Babadook on 4K.
Congratulations, one and all.
Nice.
Hefty prizes.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Doctor Strange.
Now.
We can't give away anything, but just
Is it
in
strange?
case. It is, and it involves the multiverse and madness.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, I can confirm it is a film.
I really enjoyed it. For some reason, the 7 that I gave it is being regarded as extremely negative. I put a recommended on there just to clarify. It is an above average rating. But
It's an above average score.
yes, you'd think
Average is 5.
It is.
6.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure anymore. Really,
Okay.
I think maybe I should have given it a 9.
When Kaz doesn't give anything a 6, people start to worry.
Yeah, I get confused. 6 or
Yeah.
9.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I had some had to come to terms with certain things about it, including the fact that for me, after Spider-Man, I was expecting Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And it was probably more Doctor Strange deals with WandaVision after WandaVision finished. And that was a really good film. And I really enjoyed it. But it took me by surprise and probably took me half of the film to realize that what you should really do is sit down, watch the whole of WandaVision, and then watch Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, in which case it'll be a fantastic film-sized conclusion to that TV series.
So from that little description there, does one have to have seen WandaVision to get the
Yes.
most out of?
Pretty
Yes.
much. Yes.
Yes,
Very
it
much
is.
so.
It is compulsory viewing. You have to go through WandaVision, and I would say even going through it relatively close to watching the movie would really do you favors, because Doctor Strange, the sequel, kicks right into it, and it's as if WandaVision just finished. So that's where the
that little
confusion
stinger at the end
comes
of the
in.
show.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, all of
Yes.
that leads.
Yes.
Yeah, you know it.
Mhm.
All of that leads straight into this, and the two tie in very nicely. But it took me a while to get used to that, because after he dabbled in the Spider-Man film and unleashed some multiverse fun, I think I expected maybe more of that, except more, like loads more. But it isn't kind of like that. And the posters and no doubt the trailers give it away. I went to see it having not seen any trailers, and I was particularly chuffed because the the opening couple of scenes give away things that I didn't know about because I hadn't seen the trailers. So it's a very good film. It's also worth bearing in mind that it is, more than any other film before in the MCU, a director's film. This is a Sam Raimi film. It's almost unfettered Sam Raimi. He's gone back to all of his Evil Dead playbook rules and trademarks and favorite actors, and he's decided to just bring that into the Marvel universe. And he picked a good realm to do it in, because there's plenty of room for spirits and witches and sorcerers and undead thingies in Doctor Strange, especially featuring Wanda. But I think that you have to fully be on board with the fact that you're going to be watching a Sam Raimi film, which is really refreshing. No, it is.
No bad
and
thing.
It's very unusual considering how many directors were pulled off the Marvel universe for being too particular, let's say, and not towing the line. Whereas it appears he was given final cut within guidelines. I think final cut privileges.
Yeah, but he's had form, hasn't he? I mean, he's had 3 dabbles in the Marvel universe already, hasn't he? and he did it well. You know, you look at those 3 Spider-Man films, and they were not, barring possibly the Doc Ock opening in Spider-Man 2, that you wouldn't be able to say that they were a Sam Raimi film.
No, but that's what I'd say. It's misleading, isn't it? He's had those 3 Spider-Man films. I expected a Doctor Strange film from the guy who did those Spider-Man films. I didn't. I got to get the Doctor Strange film from the guy who did Evil Dead and Drag Me to Hell, which was great, but I'm surprised that Marvel let him do it.
But it worked, because I think, you know, it didn't start with Raimi, did it? You know, Scott Derrickson came out straight away and said, boom, the sequel is going to be the horror film. So, you know, it was almost like when Derrickson and Feige parted company, it was almost like, right, we've got a short list of directors who need to be able to do horror and have comic book experience. Let's be honest, it's a short list of one, really, isn't it? So you know, I mean, I agree entirely. I loved that it was Raimi, and there was so much of Raimi in there. You know, the screening I was in, people waiting 10 minutes for that last end of credit stinger, which lasted about 12 seconds, but I mean, my daughter turned to me at the end and said, "What's all that about?" And I'm still laughing. I said, "Look, I'll tell you when you're older." Yeah, and it was beautiful that it was such a Raimi film. I agree entirely. I mean, I had an absolute blast. Probably helped by seeing it in IMAX 3D, which was superb. Oh, it was superb. But I think to address your points about sort of the narrative, what struck me was you think of any films that try and take this notion of a multiverse or something where there's so many things happening all at once, and narratively you can just lose yourself in it. You know, how do you tell a through line story through umpteen different universes? The fact of the matter is you can't. So I think we got just the right amount of different universes, different strangers, shall we say, different you name it, to maintain the integrity of that story. So yes, my daughter was disappointed that there was no madness. There is. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there are short little trips through lots of universes, shall we say? And my daughter wanted much more of that. But
as the title leads you to believe.
Well, yeah, but I don't know what's a spoiler side these days.
Yeah, I understand.
I know. Well, I mean, it's tough because I think if you've seen What If, you've seen what they can do. Yeah. So maybe it's difficult because a part of me wanted a bit more of that. But you know what? It was a very enjoyable, very different entry, and people who enjoyed WandaVision will want to see the conclusion to WandaVision, which is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Excellent.
And just to be clear here, my 7 was a recommended rating. Okay.
Yes. I mean, one of the things I will say about it, wasn't it due to come out nearer WandaVision?
Yeah, finishing? I think the whole timetable worked backwards because WandaVision was the first, I think, to be released, and it wasn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be the other way round, and it's supposed to come later.
Falcon was supposed to be first, wasn't it?
So I can imagine if they plotted it out, this being much, much closer. I mean, I understand that narratively it's supposed to take place after Spider-Man. I personally, if they could go back and do it again, wouldn't have necessarily done it that way. I'd probably considered Spider-Man after this.
Yeah, I agree, because I think with the Phase 4 films, you know, with Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, you know, if you have that run of 3 and suddenly you stick in Multiverse of Madness, boom, suddenly it looks an awful lot better. But the fact that it came straight after Spider-Man, which was such a success, I think expectations were probably through the roof unfairly. But I agree with you. I had an absolute blast with it. I thought it was just great fun. Some absolutely amazing cameos, which I won't spoil, obviously, some of which we knew if we'd seen the trailers. Trailers are there to be watched. You do know that.
This is why I didn't watch the trailers.
And there's a whole podcast material there.
Yeah,
trailers.
I'm good without it.
Well, but you've seen the Top Gun Maverick trailer, though, haven't you?
I was forced to watch it a couple of Sundays ago, was it, Kaz? Last Monday?
Yes.
You sat me down, said, watch this. And,
I made it didn't really give away a great deal, though, I will say.
No, apart from the You need to watch this, which is what trailers are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Top Gun did it well up until the latest one. But I'm digressing.
Sorry. Yes.
We need to talk 4K. We're gonna talk about 4K news briefly because they've released. They're going to release 2 titles that I'm definitely gonna get on 4K, which is Event Horizon and Ronin. They're the 2 I picked up on just a couple of days ago, I think. I love Event Horizon. I know it's utter nonsense, but I have a lot of time for it. It's
awesome.
When did you last watch it?
I watched it very recently because it's on 4K and Apple.
Yeah, I watched it 6 months ago.
We all got it on Apple because it was on for $3.99, I think. 4K Dolby Vision on Apple. So.
Poor old Tom. We're all going, we're having it on Apple, and Tom's going, I hate Apple, but I hate Apple. No.
He's not pressing buy, but yeah, we all watched it. I really have a lot of time for Event Horizon. It could have been better. And I feel
that's interesting because when it first came out, it was derided a little bit, but it was of its time. And the fact that it sort of stands up now, 18, 20 years later, however long it is quite remarkable. I thought it would have been looked at or with a more than a hint of cheese, shall we say.
Yeah, I think it's not. Is it 97?
No.
It's 97.
Yeah. I think it's a lot older.
I think it is very cheesy, but I think the practical sets and the adherence to like hell in a spacecraft kind of works. Also, I love the cast. The cast are just great. Lawrence Fishburne is just. No one would have him as the captain of anything, but he's fabulous.
Well, he was Morpheus.
I know, but he's not Morpheus than this.
It's more the fact that someone let Sean Pertwee into space.
Yeah, Sean Pertwee.
Did no one see Dog Soldiers? He couldn't even handle a rifle, let alone a spaceship.
Sean Pertwee's having a bad day in space. Sam Neill he's having his own. He's having his own issues there.
And Jason Isaacs with the worst American accent ever.
Jason Isaacs, yes.
It's great.
It's a great cast. Practical sets, some very, very creepy sets that make no sense. The spaceship, it's not like the spaceship was designed by hell. It's like the spaceship is supposed to be a spaceship they sent somewhere. They get to it, and the doors open, and they're made of spikes that close together, and they go into the main power room. And it's a giant globe where there are spikes all the way around the wall. Who? Why? Why would you do that?
Because it's cool.
Galaxy Quest.
Because it's cool.
It's health and safety, guys. It's just it's
nerd fact. It's based off of a cathedral design. So the ship is shaped like a cathedral.
Yes, I can see that. See that. I think considering it's the guy who did Resident Evil, it's even shot really well. There's an early shot where the spinning camera that lands on Sam Neill through a window pane of his space shuttle.
Did anyone pick up the Shout Blu-ray from a couple of years ago?
I think I did, yes.
Because I didn't, and I think this is going to be a direct port of that, isn't it? Just with the new fancy 4K. So I don't think there's going to be any new extras.
Where's my deleted footage?
Yeah, where's the mythical scenes that were never ever shot?
Yeah, where is it?
But I will be buying that on 4K disc, even though I have that on Apple iTunes 4K and
Ronin 4K.
Ronin as well.
Do you know what?
Don't do it.
No. I'm not going to do the Hereford. No. I don't know. I like Ronin, but Arrow are going to do it, don't you? That's going to be the next to their 4K release slates. If Kino doing it over in the States and Arrow have got it over here, Arrow will sling it out on 4K sooner rather than later. So I'll wait for that.
Yes, that's fair enough. I've got a lot of time for Ronin. I don't think I appreciated it as much at the time because I was still loving Heat. It's like 3 years after Heat, and I thought De Niro had a few more big hitters in him. but Ronin is kind of the last of the good ones for a good long time, if ever. And it is worrying a little bit. Again, 25, 24 years on. But
yeah, I think that was 98, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I got big into Mamet after that, and I love his dialogue. I remember when I saw it, I thought, what is this dialogue about? And then I just watched every David Mamet film after that and went, that's what this is about.
Yeah, where's the car chases?
Yeah, yeah, where are they?
That was the first audio commentary I ever listened to, the Ronin one with John Frankenheimer, and I was amazed. Just the fact that he's going, see, in this shot, we're in France. Oh, and on the reverse shot, we're in the studio. And in this shot, we're in France. And, this shot, and I just sat there going, mind blown everywhere. Oh my God. Awesome.
Yeah, I got a lot of time for that. Right, so what have we actually got in hand? I mean, the big coup is I've got Drive 4K from Second Sight. I mean, from what we hear from Second Sight, it seems as if the people in their own QA company got their check discs late. Sorry, guys, I got mine early. But they've delayed the release a week because they couldn't sign off on it. I can sign off on it. I'm just saying, I'm signing off on it. But first, we're going to have a look. Let's look at Smokin Aces because
no. I want to hear about Drive, quite frankly.
Fine.
Okay. Don't tease us.
Looks and sounds great. So tell us about Smokin Aces. Yeah. No, go on. It's Drive. Watching Drive again was just immense. I did it for my birthday, so I sat down and we watched Drive in 4K Dolby Vision with Dolby Atmos. Turned up. The kids didn't wake up, and it was, and that's nothing to say bad about the Atmos track. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved the movie. It was shot on a budget, I think, of something like 15 million, a nothing budget. It's tremendously stylish, and I think that some of the cameras involved weren't the highest of resolution, but you can't tell from this. They've done a fantastic 4K rendition, and the texture is immense, and the color timing is almost flawless. If I'm really going to quibble about some of the scenes, I think he's sitting in his room and he's building an engine, and he's got a spotlight on it, and the spotlight's a tiny bit brighter than maybe you'd think for it. And you could look at that and go, yeah, it's a little bit blown out, but it really isn't. And you'd have to be quibbling about the tiniest things in a film where otherwise it looks sheer perfection.
That's what the internet's for, Kaz, quibbling over minor things. That's what it was invented for.
It really is. It was tremendous watching it. And little things like, it pulls out the geeky nerd in me, when he first meets the girl and he's talking to her, the way they cast the two characters, it's in very interesting light. So it almost looks like he perceives her as being this, which she is, I suppose, in terms, this kind of pure, innocent person, because they cast her in one shot with this fantastic picture postcard, like sunlight from behind, while he's cast in half shadow and by the doorway. I mean, just the things you notice a bit more with a really, really nice, really good presentation. So
I can't wait. Yes. I can't wait.
Pleased with that. I hope that answers your question there, Stevie D. How does Drive look?
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Atmos track is great. The LFE really does keep it going with the beat of that soundtrack. And I thought that the gunshots when they land are pretty shocking. I mean, it's got shocking violence in it, but they add the extra shock on the scenes through the base.
Nice.
I mean, it's really well done. I don't have a finished set, so I can't tell you how pretty the actual box is. Sorry,
Oh.
I know.
And you can't
I
tell
know.
Tom how great the book is either.
No, I can't tell Tom. Even if I
Oh.
had the book, I wouldn't be able to tell Tom how great the book is. But it's a great set. It's fantastic, and we'll have a competition running for it as well. So
Excellent.
Stay tuned for that.
Excellent news.
So what else do we have? We got Smokin Aces. Should we do Smokin Aces quickly?
We can do Smokin Aces quite quickly if you like. It's great. There you go.
Excellent.
It's the film is, yes, and as expected on the thread, it's proved somewhat divisive. It's an it's no. I love it, but it really is an acquired taste because tonally it is all over the shop.
Yes.
1 minute it's some high octane, high concept. I think that's a bullet ballet in the review. The next minute it's some like crazy cartoon caper that's the worst of Guy Ritchie meets the Looney Tunes, and then come the very end we're expected to shed tears over some of these people. It is absolutely all over the shop, and some people can't get on board with that, which I understand. I think it's an absolute hoot. I think it's an amazing hot mess of a film.
Yeah.
And so I am all in for the film. The disc, it's one of those films that's shot very much to meet a certain style. So it is hot and blown out in one scene. It's naturalistic and detailed in another. The next scene, it's slightly out of focus. So as a transfer, it's all over the shop. The original Blu-ray now, which is getting on, was pretty good. But I think what this 4K does for me, it just adds that little extra sheen of detail where it wasn't before. It manages the grain slightly better. I did a very quick A/B between the old Blu-ray and this one. And there's a scene at the end with Andy Garcia and Ryan Reynolds facing off with each other. And in the middle on the Blu-ray, you can see the grain. It's kind of clumping and it's a bit patchy. But then on the 4K, it's completely smooth. It's there. It's just completely uniform. The other thing to mention is the colors. It is very, very. It's got a hugely bright, over almost neon palette. And I think for me, the biggest difference is that you saw, yes, all the HDR10 grade, because it's not Dolby Vision, it's just HDR10. The HDR10 grade adds that little bit of brightness, but what it does do, it in combination with the wide color gamut, it cleans up some of the colors. Just when you first see Chris Pine and his crazy brothers as they hare into screen, they drive onto screen behind a vivid blue sky, and on the Blu-ray it's got a slight yellow tinge to it, a bit of teal introduced to it, and on the 4K it's crystalline aquiline blue. It's absolutely perfect. So from a picture perspective, I think it's very much an upgrade. Is it a night and day upgrade? Not really. And granted, I'm doing my critical view on a 92-inch screen, so I'm picking up stuff that it may be more difficult for others to pick up. Orally, the DTSX mix doesn't add an awful lot, if I'm honest. Yes, it sort of brings the ambience, the score, and some of the soundtrack choices. It brings it a little bit into the room. I only remember one spot effect for the overhead. That's as the helicopter lands on the roof of the hotel at the very end. You hear it swirl around all the 4 speakers. It's pretty cool. But other than that, it was already a great DTS HDMA soundtrack, and I don't think this DTSX soundtrack is the selling point upgrade, shall we say, that I expected it to be. For me, it was the visuals. So all in all, I think it is very much an upgrade from a visual perspective. Is it a rush out and buy it full price upgrade? Unless you really love the film, this might be one of those Zavvi offers, shall we say, that you stick in your basket for later.
Which is
the way
fine.
to buy it if you've never seen it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yes.
Or in the case, don't buy it at all, which brings us on to Uncharted.
So I got that today. I'm about halfway through, and yes, I will finish it, unfortunately. No, I mean, I saw the film at the cinema, and it's average, isn't it? I mean, I've never played the video games. I'm an Xbox man, so I've never bothered with that PlayStation guff, shall we say. So I've never played the games. I have no affiliation with the character in any way, what shape or form. So all the little nods and winks and all that stuff all went straight over my head. What I got for the sort of first 2 acts was a very dull, very poorly put together modern day reinterpretation of, I mean, God, even, it had me hankering back for Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider, for God's sake. Now, I won't even talk about, Raiders and or Romance in the Stone, or even, the Dizzying Heights of National Treasure. However, but do you know what? One thing I will say, the third act, it goes just totally off the rail. It goes, do you know what? Stuff this. We're going to embrace the video game roots, and we're going to have the most insane third act. If you've seen the trailer, this is not a spoiler. So if you haven't seen the trailer, just shut your ears off for a minute. But there are pirate ships being carried by helicopters through the air. Now, there are set pieces that are done with that, which actually I fully embrace. I was all on board for. That's what I want to see. Now, if I had more of that in the first two acts, instead of this, oh, look, this 17th century tomb is now a nightclub. Yes, really. All that kind of crap. If it had done away with that and just embraced the silliness of the third act, it would have been so much better. But as a film, it's passable, it's watchable, it's now really special. However, it is Sony doing 4K, and we know Sony do good 4K, and this is good 4K.
It's annoying, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but you must have seen enough Sony 4K discs. You can spot them a mile off. I don't know what they do, but you can spot a Sony transfer a mile off.
They have proper QA, don't they?
Yeah. All the pictures are in the right order for starters. But it's got a texture to it. There's a richness, there's a solidity, there's texture to it where there isn't tech. I mean, this is a fully digital production, and yet it looks really solid. The shooting style is interesting because it uses some anamorphic shots in some scenes, so you've got that sort of telltale. I don't even know how to describe it. Sort of out of focus around the edges, and I think this is one thing which 4K is possibly not helping with. It is starting to show up the defects in the source material far more than it ever did. So you'll have a crystalline shot of the outside of a building, which is the most razor sharp image you've ever seen, and you'll cut straight to a shot that's got all these soft bits around the edges. And it's really noticeable. But of course, that's not a fault of the transfer, not at all. I think there's some fantastic HDR highlights. I haven't watched it in Dolby Vision yet because I'm watching it on the projector. But there's flames in dingy catacombs, so of course it's a HDR highlight, and it's absolutely brilliant. Some of the best of those scenes that I've seen, piercing HDR with some really nice shadow detail behind it. It's lovely. The Atmos track. I watched the first half and then skipped straight to the flying pirate ships bit, and yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. It's deceptive because what it is, it's one of those soundtracks where there's so much going on, but you can hear everything. I don't know if you remember the Jupiter Jupiter Ascending soundtrack as an Atmos track. It literally was just like sound, for 2 hours, and you stuff was going on, but you couldn't hear it.
I didn't make it 2 hours through that.
It was such a packed soundtrack, and this is the antithesis of that. At the end, you've got creaking floorboards, you've got tinkling gun cases, you've got the LFE thwomp of helicopter blades, and you can hear them all. It's a really, really. Sounds really weird. It's a delicate soundtrack for all the arse kicking that it does. And of course, it's got all the good stuff like LFE as ships are slamming into mountains. There's some real gut busting LFE in there. So yeah, I think at the halfway through the film, it's a bang average film on an absolutely stunning 4K disc. Who could have predicted that?
Yes. Nice. Tell us about Hitchcock. What do we think? Yeah, Hitchcock. Come on. It arrived. We know it arrived.
It arrived. It did arrive.
Open the box. Open the box. Open the box.
Gentlemen and ladies, it arrived about half an hour ago.
I've
not had chance to.
I would love it if this is just porn.
I didn't think to do that.
Oh, it's the wrong package.
Volume 2.
I did bring down my original Blu-rays of the sets that I've got of of Hitchcock here, all of which, not this one, this is the slightly different one. This is not the Universal set. The Universal set here contains everything that is on part 2 and part 1, the 4K of Blur, part 1 here, or volume 1. And I was just looking at this cover here. This was released in 2012, 10 years ago. I can't believe this set is 10 years old. I digress. So here we are. This is, I'm hoping that this is the Hitchcock set, volume 2.
Out today.
Okay, let's do it this way round, shall we, so everyone can see. Oh, no!
Imagine. Scissors.
Oh.
Scissors.
Scissors. No, we don't use scissors. You.
Oh,
So there we go.
on
We have unboxed
Blu-ray.
it.
Nice.
It is 4K Ultra.
I'm joking. Yeah.
There we go. Shall we pop it open completely?
Why not?
And I'm going to show you how weak my fingers are.
No,
So should we take guesses now as to how many of these discs are cocked up?
no, it'll be fine.
Fine,
Come
it's
on,
your
don't be
judgment.
critical.
Hang on.
Fine.
Half of the first set's discs were rubbish.
It's fine.
Were they?
Yeah. Psycho didn't have the original mono track that it was promised, and Vertigo had that massive pixelation thing where anyone who had the nerve to buy Panasonic 4K players was
Oh, right. Yeah.
stuck by it.
Oh, right. Okay.
And,
Well,
and,
yeah.
and,
So-
and idiot here bought the Italian version, so couldn't even get the replacement disc.
wrestling copies.
Damn it!
So, slipcase. Nothing in the slipcase. Does tell you everything about the films on the back here, which is quite useful. It's got Blu-ray and 4K. Now, I've done a little bit of research on this, knowing that this was coming, trying to find out if they are fully remastered and they are native 4Ks. It appears to be so, but finding corroboration of that is difficult,
Yeah.
shall we say. So it's a big flappy opening. There we
Is
go.
that
A big
the
flappy
technical
opening.
term there, Si?
Big flappy
No, how
opening
else would you
sets,
call it?
nice.
Big flappy opening thing.
Wow, that's quite
Quite a long set,
quite
isn't it?
impressive, though. Actually,
The discs are the 4K discs are on top, as they should be.
Yeah, that's so annoying
5
to me.
sets.
I have to flip them all around. God, why don't they put them on top? Why would I be buying a 4K release to watch the Blu-ray?
Exactly. Yeah, it does seem a bit strange that the Blu-rays, doesn't it? So presumably the Blu-rays are the same masters as the 4K. I mean, this was a pretty good set, and there was quite a lot of mastering done for this. 10 years old though, so I'm pretty confident in stating that these have been remastered.
I imagine
on
so.
the
into
first
4K.
set, we had Rear Window, Vertigo, Psycho, and the Birds.
We did.
So the original Blu-ray box set had 9 films? Are we saying the
original Blu-ray set was a book set like this.
and it had how many in it? 9.
Oh dear.
It probably had more in it.
Yeah. Let's count them, shall we?
Whoopee! Wow.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
9,
8,
12,
9, 10,
16.
11, 12, 13, 14.
So I guess I'm interested
14
because the
films.
first 4K release had Rear Window, Vertigo, Psycho, and the Birds, which to me are absolute
They're classics.
masterpiece classics.
Yep.
This new set, which includes 5 more releases,
Is a bit strange.
Saboteur,
Yep.
Shadow of a Doubt,
Yep.
The Trouble with Harry,
Yep.
not Harry Styles, Marnie, and
Marnie.
Family Plot.
Yes.
I
So
mean,
they would be the lesser known. I mean, you're
The
missing
B
out.
theme. Let's call it the B
Yeah,
theme.
yeah.
Shall we?
let's not. I could actually do with a Hitchcock set which didn't have more than 2 of these, maybe
Yes.
3 if I'm being super generous. I find
They're
it
saving
really
the best
odd.
for the rest for.
I'm hoping
for
what happens
season
is
3
you
or-
you watch them and you decide it's like the Columbia Volume 2 set, which on the face of it was eclectic, but actually when you went into it, it was quite nice having all those films.
These films, I mean, the thing is, though, look what you're comparing them against. You know, those first 4 are classics of cinema.
Yeah.
Are there not more that we could name from Hitchcock?
Well, but not that Universal own, and that's the problem.
Yeah, but that really is the problem.
Well, to be fair, they shouldn't have spunked their load doing the 4 of those in the volume 1. That's what they shouldn't have done. So we should be grateful they did that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you still got Rope, the man who knew too much.
How many versions of the man who knew too much? You got both of them, yeah.
Topaz.
Frenzy. I would put.
There's still a few to go, but that'll be season 3 or volume 3, presumably, in another couple of years.
Well, that is clever actually, because if they release 3 with like Rope, and I'd probably go for Torn Curtain. If they release a volume 3, which I like, then I'll need volume 2.
Yeah,
just because I'll be really annoyed with volume 1 and volume 3 on the shelf. Also, I like Barney. I mean,
these films are good. I mean,
they're Hitchcock after all.
The trouble with Harry is light and frothy, but it's
a weird one, isn't it?
Good.
Yeah,
it's still good fun.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right. These are very much lesser Hitchcock, but that's like saying, there's a Spielberg box set that doesn't have Jaws, Raiders, E.T. in it. It's just got some of his lesser ones in. They're still great.
They're still great.
Maybe.
So,
you're not selling me on Trouble with Harry.
Trouble with Harry is great, and Saboteur is actually really good as well. I like Saboteur.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're just
not psycho.
Yeah, they're not psycho.
Okay.
Put in your place. Oh, right. Come on, Rope. If you take out that whole one shot thing of it, it's ropey. Quite frankly,
I like Rope. I got
there
time
you
for
go.
Rope.
It's no Dial M for Murder. Speaking of,
where's Dial M for Murder?
That's Warner's. That's
I
Warner's.
don't care. Buy it back, or don't give me this. Anyway,
that's in a completely different set. That's why they come out separately.
So yes, that is a very nice set, Simon. I'm glad you've received it. I would love to have
I can't wait for the reviews, Mr. Crust. Get them watched and get them written about. Come on,
well, you got until midnight. Days on that
one. TV. We're gonna really briefly talk about Paramount Plus, which is finally coming. We're going to talk about the fact that it's finally coming to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming in a month, which is pretty good considering I wouldn't have put money on it coming before the end of the summer. It was one of those ridiculous things where they could make money off it, but they're going to take their time. I'm not sure what the tech specs are. They're saying 1080p, which is annoying because I think you can pay for a 4K upgrade in the US.
Well, can you only watch it via Sky, or can you take out?
No. It'll be like one of those sub plans that you can get. There'll be an Apple app and Apple TV box app or whatever you want to watch it on. But on Sky, it sounds like Sky. Is it Sky Movies are getting it for free if you're a Sky subscriber, but if you're a Now TV Sky Cinema subscriber, you're screwed. So if Sky subscribers will get, I think, all of this for free.
Nice.
Which is really nice. But I'm not. So I'll be getting Paramount and be really annoyed until they give me the chance to upgrade to 4K, because I'll pay for it in 4K. The fact that they don't roll that out on day one is ridiculous. What they do roll out on day one is their back catalogue of Yellowstone, 4 seasons of Yellowstone and the prequel season. I've reviewed the first 2 and I can't wait to do the next 2 because we got it on Channel 5 or something in this country. I mean, I don't know how we got it, but I waited until it was out, I think, on Blu-ray.
Is this a Yogi Bear origin story or something?
Yeah, it is. Yes. It's you've never done Yellowstone.
It's TV. I don't watch TV unless it's got Mulder and Scully, dragons or boobs in it. That's it.
There are boobs in it. So there you go.
It's Taylor Sheridan, the guy who did Hello High Water, and it's Kevin Costner in the lead.
Yeah,
and it's about a guy who owns a very big patch of land that everyone wants.
Yeah, Pretty much it. And they're trying to get it off him.
Yeah, and his
Pretty much
family, a very dysfunctional family, and they're all vying for their position of power within his little. I mean, it's Succession, except in Montana or in the open range with lots of guns.
So it's a cowboy version of that other TV show everyone raved about, which bored the arse off me. After
No. It's not a slow burn. It's not a slow burn. It gets kicking straight away.
Yes, it is. It is very good. I mean, I've heard interesting things about season 3 because I heard it connects to season 4.
Yeah.
So I haven't. Oh, you've seen season 3?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it good?
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It's gone a little bit off the rails.
Sold.
Gone a little bit off the rails. First 2 seasons are outstanding.
Yes.
Third one goes a little bit off the rails, concentrating a little bit more on the girl rather than the family dynamic. So, she's it's okay. It's not. It hasn't quite got the impact that the first 2 had. For my money.
Yeah, there are some great episodes in the first 2. There's a real shock one in the second one. I mean, it's if you watch TV, Mark, I would recommend it, but you don't, so no. But also westerns, you must love westerns.
I do love westerns.
You would. It's got a lovely modern western vibe with it. Really does. And it's Costner. How much decent new Costner do you get the chance to watch with him in the lead? I mean, he's fabulous in it. He's really, really good in it. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for the prequel series as well, which is Sam Elliott, I think.
I think about that.
He's 1880.
He's not that old.
Looking forward to that. And they've greenlit a 5th series, so I'm glad there's finally a genuine place you can actually watch it without having to wait a decade.
Mm-hmm.
They've also got The Offer, which is about the making of The Godfather. Not sure that's really hooked me. The Man Who Fell to Earth with Chiwetel Ejiofor.
That's not getting good reviews, that isn't.
Mordo, what are you doing? Yes, I'm not sure about that, but we're here to really, really talk Trek.
Picard.
Yes. Firstly, give us a 60-second highlight reel of what you thought come the end of Picard.
I was a bit annoyed by the end of Picard. There you go. Do you want any more?
Sat through 10 hours of total crap.
No. I
do you need a hug?
I did not hate all of it. The fact of the matter, I was promised John Delancey. I was promised Q, and I got bugger all Q. Okay. I needed more. When Q was in it, it was awesome. Apart from one little scene in the final episode. People who've seen it know exactly what I'm talking about. Could have done without that. But also, I mean, it just ended a bit meh for me. The whole time travel notion. Just the minute you sort of saw each plot point slot into place, you went, well, how did that work if that thing happened 400 years ago? And it just, no, it didn't quite work for me. It was watchable, but little else for me.
You should be applauded for sitting through any of it, honestly.
I mean, I gave up pretty early into the first season, and I'm shocked every time Tom had to watch a new episode. And I was thinking, you don't have to watch this. It's okay. You can just step away.
He secretly loved it.
Do it.
It's just, he's told me, and this brings us on to the next show, he's told me as a result of how bad he found the experience watching Picard, he will not watch Strange New Worlds.
Of course he will. He's a liar.
That's what he says. So Strange New Worlds is coming.
I was almost the same opinion, actually.
Really?
Done with it all.
But then you saw it.
But then I've seen it, and there is a glimmer of hope in the blackness that is New Trek.
So Strange New Worlds has debuted in the US. It'll be available to us in about a month, but we've seen it. Mm-hmm. And you're saying glimmer of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm saying I loved it.
Oh, really?
I'm saying
nice.
that I haven't enjoyed Trek that much in a long time.
Excellent.
Because I have to say, I find it hard to go back and look at how I felt about Discovery when it started. and considering where it is now, it's hard to undo a
All
lot
that
of that discovery.
rubbish.
And I can look back further and think of Enterprise, but I'm thinking of the end of Enterprise and start of Enterprise was Pony.
Mhm.
So it's been a while since good track, and most clear in my mind is like revisiting the original series when they remastered it. I mean, this is if you wanted to take the original series and reboot it,
This is how they should have
this
done
is
it.
how they should have done it.
This
It
is what
really
they should have
is.
done with
Yeah.
Discovery. This is what they should have done.
I mean, it's genius because it's not like someone else is playing Kirk. I mean, it's got someone else in the lead.
Yeah.
He might have, it's short of being called Kirk. He is.
Mhm.
He's like a Kirk who can act.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. He's got great charisma. He's got insane hair. I want his hair. His hair is just.
You almost have it.
I know. I'm working on it. I think you have to start and get a silver streak across. He's got fantastic hair, and he's a captain I can really get behind. And
Yeah.
he's doing. Go on.
I was going to say, so how is this setting itself up then? I mean, I know we've only had, is it one episode or two episodes?
One episode. It's setting itself up as 5 years of 5-year voyage to journey. You know,
but do we think it's going to be back to
episodic?
I was going to say
Yes.
sort of old school Trek,
Yes.
as in episode of the week, rather
they're
than.
saying the most they'll do is 2-parters.
Oh
My God, it's
Oh,
like they
that's
listen to the
nice.
fans.
It is. But
Oh, I
what's
like that.
interesting is they're not stupid. TV has moved on from just, completely single episodes that have you could watch them in any order. This has got underlying character
Mhm.
developments. I mean,
Yeah.
for him, everything that happened in Discovery, it echoes even in the first episode. And I think that they'll show things like that across the season. But the actual adventures they go on, I think they'll be pretty discreet, which is so refreshing.
So I'm going to say something now, and bear with me.
Yes.
I luckily bailed on Discovery at the end of season 1.
Me too.
So I am yet to bear witness to the true horror and pain that is sort of later episodes of Discovery. But so obviously I didn't see Pike in Discovery. Do I need to?
No.
I mean, I think that they give enough that almost what you could be watching reminds you of what you know from the original series.
Okay.
Because Pike is a character from the original
Yeah,
series.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
knows him. Everyone knows what
Yeah.
happens to him. And in a way, you can tie the dots from the stuff they give you right from the first episode.
So do we think that's where this is going to go then? Is this going to sort of
Well, they hinted at it.
end in the cage? Because if they did, that'd be pretty sweet.
Well, I think that's the whole point of what we saw in Discovery, and he's got to come to terms with what could be waiting for him down the line. But they played with it quite cleverly. I would say that probably it's worth watching the episodes with him in Discovery.
it's
Oh, come on, he makes
No, it's not.
he makes
You don't need
Discovery
to.
so much better. You don't need to, but he does make it so much better. People knew as soon as he landed on the bridge in Discovery, as soon as he started wandering around, they needed a spin-off show with this guy, Anson Mount, doing, Captain Pike on a proper decent Enterprise. I mean, the opening credits was just fantastic. They
as good as Peacemaker.
It's good to hear that.
Did they all
monologue again.
dance? Do they all dance
No.
the 80s tunes? Oh,
No,
disappointing.
No, but they make you think that Trek could be good again, which
Yeah.
is in its own way as good as Peacemaker. The opening credits,
true.
as Simon says, is a monologue, and then you get some really lavish shots of the Enterprise cascading through different universes. I mean,
yeah,
it's
it's
all
cool.
very.
Oh,
It's all
amongst
very
the,
shit porn.
In amongst the 22
Oh.
producers that they've got on the show.
I mean, but you
Oh.
could watch those credits again and again. It's very nicely done, and the tune is, a revamp.
Reminiscent. Yeah.
Original
reminiscent.
series tune. I mean, it's they've gone. We've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Let's just go back.
Let's
all
just
the way back.
stroke the egos
Yeah.
of all the fans for a little while.
Yeah,
And they really did.
yeah, they really
Nice.
did.
They really did.
So
right, I will watch this. It's not got Mulder and Scully or dragons or boobs in, but I will watch it.
Could be.
There may be dragons. Unlikely to be boobs.
Could be good track. Could be. I recommend it.
Excellent.
I'll give it more than a 7 just in case people get confused. Right. I think that's kind of it for today.
Are we done?
I think we can do a podcast competition, then we can breathe.
Oh, we're spent.
So I've got the Cerebro collection here for someone to win. But
Nice.
they have to answer the question. And
Make it a tricky one. Make it a tricky one.
The question is, which one of the X-Men uses Professor X's Cerebro computer?
Oh, you swine!
I know.
Kaz. You swine.
It's a hard one. It's so. There you go. That's it for the AVForums Movies podcast. My thanks to both the hardware and movies teams, and to Mark and Simon, for actually turning up, Tom. Come on.
Yeah, Davis, you swine.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when we publish our live streams, product reviews, and more. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook and bookmark avforums.com for the latest reviews, news, and videos. And plus, why not leave us a 5-star rating on whichever service you use, if they allow it, but only if you enjoyed the show. I am Kaz Harlow. Thank you for watching and listening, and join us for the next podcast on the 23rd of May for Top Gun.
Yes! Come on!